Be more than human.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll. And today I have maybe a serious conversation, maybe a controversial conversation. And I'm not going to make this too long, but I thought, as a self-pub author, an indie author, I always try to keep up on what people are doing in the, self-pub, or just even traditional publishing space, and techniques that they're using to sharpen their skills and sharpen their manuscripts and their, books in general. Any little advantage that I can see, I like to try to take advantage of it. And so I hadn't heard this term until I decided I was going to publish my first novel, More Than a Vampire. And so as I was watching these author pub and what writers should do, what's good strategies, it's the first time I heard the term, and so I was like, well, what is a sensitivity reader? And so, I'm sitting down and I'm watching, and the people are talking about, you let this person read your book, and they'll tell you what things are insensitive in the book. And my first thought was, so I'm going to pay somebody money to find things that they find offensive in my books. Right off the bat, I was like, something that just doesn't seem right. Especially if you're writing adult, adult fantasy, adult sci-fi, adult books. And I can definitely understand the aspect of using a sensitivity reader if you're marketing to children, if you're making like a YA book. Well, sure, you probably should have somebody reading through that to make sure that you're not, doing too much adult stuff within the book. But as far as for an adult book, an adult fiction book, why on earth would you want to do that? Honestly, I mean, if you're a sensitivity reader and you're watching this, or you're an author, what what benefit is it of you to do that rather than just use your beta readers, which you should be doing if you are a self-pub writer? Beta readers are one of the most important aspects. And if you have a group of beta readers who read it, that are, especially if they come from different backgrounds, and you don't get any consensus that there's anything in your book that's overly bad, why on earth would you go and pay somebody that is specifically looking, to find something offensive in your book? You could do that with any book. If I really wanted to, I could be like, yeah, that's offensive, that's offensive. But it's just like, it's the author's vision for whatever it is. And you know what? If that author is a bad person, go ahead, let them publish it. Let people find out what kind of person they are. But also, I'm thinking to myself, would any of Brian Keene's books, The Rising, ever be published if he had used sensitivity readers? I mean, there is every trigger warning that you could ever imagine inside that book. Hell, Joe Abercrombie in The First Law. I mean, it's just, there are so many amazing books that just have so many things that anybody could find offensive. My big thing is just, anything that restricts the author's ability to just let their story flow. Especially if you're just trying to think about, you know, and maybe depending on how this video does, I'll make other videos that are similar to this. But you can't, you cannot be, stuttering your way through your book, trying to not offend people. It's like, and like I said earlier, it's like if you are an offensive person, they're gonna, go ahead. I'm all for transparency. Get that stuff out in the open if somebody feels that way, and let people judge them. But I, in some ways, I think that it was just a made-up thing to, somebody somewhere thought up the idea, and they're like, oh, I can make money off of this by telling people they need to do this. And I think it's almost another way of shaming authors or creatives. It's like, hey, if you don't do this, then you're going to have bad stuff in your books. And I'm just like, we're all adults here. Have you not read American Psycho, The Wasp Factory, Tender as the Flesh? I mean, just a countless amount of books that are horrifying. If, I'm not going to knock you if you want to use a sensitivity reader, but I don't think you have to. And I don't think if you don't use one, there's anything wrong with that. If you do, there's nothing wrong with that either, if that's the way you feel. But rant over. Let me know. I mean, how do you feel about sensitivity readers, especially in the adult, fiction category? Let me know in the comments if you like this type of conversation, whether you fall on the yes or the no side. Let me know. Give it a thumbs up, and we can have more of these conversations in the future. And remember, be more than human.